Part 7. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 62. Shortly after. Luofu Holy Land. Holy Lord Luofu is practicing in seclusion. Since entering the Southern Territory, the pressure on the sect has increased a lot, and he wants to go further. After all, with leisure resources, the stronger you are, the more you can get. In front of him, there was a broken ancient book, which was a secret method. Luofu Gong? Haha, it has a bit of the immortal Tufu technique. Unfortunately, the level is still too low. Suddenly, a middle-aged man wearing linen quietly appeared in the closed room of Holy Lord Luofu. He picked up the ancient book casually, read it once, and then threw it down again, with words in his eyes. A look of disdain. Holy Lord Luofu hurriedly opened his eyes, and was extremely surprised when he saw this middle-aged man who had appeared in the secret room at some time, and said, "Who are you?" In an instant, his cultivation will explode. However, the man in black just raised his hand, and he felt as if he was being pressed down by a boulder weighing tens of millions of kilograms, and he couldn't breathe at all. It's so terrifying. Just raising your hand can make the Supreme Holy Lord Luofu unable to resist. What kind of existence is this? Holy Lord Luofu's face changed greatly and he said, "Who are you, and why are you here?" The middle-aged man just sneered and said, "You don't have to ask who I am. Tell me, what is the so-called power in the Southern Territory that can shock everything?" Hearing this, Holy Lord Luofu was even more shocked. The origin of this person is unknown. His cultivation is obviously far above that of the Supreme. He is most likely an immortal. Moreover, he is actually inquiring about the mysterious power of the Southern Territory. Could it be that the other party is the initiator of the destruction of the holy places in the major regions? But the middle-aged man seemed to have read through his thoughts and sneered, "Whether you want to perish like those ant holy places before, or answer my questions obediently, you can choose." The other party admitted it directly. Holy Lord Luofu's face instantly turned extremely ugly. He understood that he, and even the entire Luofu Holy Land, had no capital to resist in front of the other party. He could only say, "I don't know, we have never seen that mysterious power. Perhaps, only Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land in the southern region know about it." Hearing this, the middle-aged man in linen thought for a moment, then suddenly smiled and said, "Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land. I don't want to alert others yet." After speaking, he looked at Holy Lord Luofu and said, "Do you want to dominate the Southern Territory? Dominate the southern region?" Holy Lord Luofu was already a human spirit, and he instantly understood the other party's intention. The other party's visit to the Southern Territory this time must be to find the so-called power that can shock everything in the Southern Territory. However, the other party was also wary and did not dare to go directly to Xiang Holy Land and Taiyan Holy Land. That's why Luofu Holy Land was needed. Only Luofu Holy Land muddied the waters for him and fished out the mysterious existence in the Southern Territory. At this moment, a flash of hesitation flashed through Holy Lord Luofu's heart. However, this hesitation was only for a moment. He remembered Tugu Shenlu's words, "The ones who destroyed the major holy places were at least true immortals." The person in front of him is most likely a true immortal. If you have the opportunity to work for a true immortal, why not do it? Luofu Holy Land was so beautiful when it was in Zhongzhou, but when it arrived in the southern region, it was suppressed by Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land. How could he not feel aggrieved? At this moment, he had already made a decision in his heart, and he knelt directly on the ground and said, "Greetings to the master." The middle-aged man in linen suddenly smiled. At the same time, the Divine Sword Sect. Sect leader Cao Yujian is practicing sword practice at the moment. The sword energy spreads freely, destroying the heaven and the earth. But, in a daze, a middle-aged man wearing linen clothes suddenly walked into his sword domain. "Who are you?" When Cao Yujian saw it, he was shocked and shocked. At the same time, he concentrated countless sword energy and blasted towards the middle-aged man. No matter who comes suddenly, they are definitely enemies rather than friends. However, his sword energy seemed to be frozen at this moment, and could not be released at all. "Stop struggling. In front of me, you are just like the ants in the forest." The middle-aged man sneered. Cao Yujian was sweating and said, "Who are you? What do you want to do?" The middle-aged man said indifferently, "I will lend you the divine sword sect to do something. How about giving you everything in the southern region?" When Cao Yujian heard this, his eyes instantly shot out with blazing light. Soon, in a few days, Taiyan Holy Land and Purple Sun Holy Land invited us to come to the southern territory, but let us live in barren soil. Is it unreasonable? We, the Divine Sword Sect, are not convinced. The world's spiritual lands are only for capable people. Why do the two holy lands dominate the southern region? In the southern territory, a voice suddenly spread throughout all the sects. That day, the Divine Sword Sect came out in full force and directly attacked a large city in Taiyan Holy Land, massacring all the disciples of Taiyan Holy Land. As soon as the news came out, the entire southern territory was shocked. Is the Divine Sword Sect crazy? How dare you provoke Taiyan Holy Land like this? After all, this is the southern territory. The power of Taiyan Holy Land is far stronger than that of the Divine Sword section. They are looking for death. Why is Cao Yujian so crazy? Everyone was shocked. But, immediately after, another great holy place suddenly spoke. The southern territory is the southern territory of Xiantian realm, not the southern territory of Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land. They should share all their resources. Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land need to show their sincerity within 3 days, otherwise, our sect will launch a holy war. The Holy Lord of Luofu Holy Land personally wrote a letter of war and sent it to all the major forces in the southern territory. As soon as these words came out, huge waves were set off in the entire southern territory. The Holy Land of Luofu is the leading power in Zhongzhou, and now it is threatening jihad. We have only been in the southern territory for a few days. What happened? Why are the Luofu Holy Land and the Divine Sword Sect challenging us? Hey, wherever there are people, there are rivers and lakes. Now, the southern territory is the only pure land in the entire Xiantian realm, and the resources here are limited, and the major forces must compete. What a pity. Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land, does this count as luring the wolf into the house? The entire Xiantian world is talking about it. And at this moment, Taiyan Holy Land, Sword Sect and Luofu Holy Land have passed. There was a hint of cold murderous intent on the face of Holy Lord Ling Chao. He is already angry. I kindly asked them to take refuge in the southern territory, but now they bite us back. It's really too much. You ungrateful thing. Everyone in our city was wiped out by the Divine Sword section. Holy Lord, we should launch a holy war. Yes, teach them a lesson. Many elders were very angry. A huge city was attacked and occupied by the Divine Sword sect, and all the people stationed there were killed. This was simply a shame, a great humiliation, and a great hatred. Holy Lord Yuan Yang also looked gloomy at this moment and said, I'm afraid this matter is not as simple as we thought. What do you say? Holy Lord Ling Chao looked at him. Holy Lord Yuan Yang said, Holy Lord Luofu and Cao Yujian are by no means reckless people, but now they are so ruthless. I think there must be something hidden. I'm afraid there is some conspiracy among them. Hearing this, Ling Chao couldn't help but nod his head and said, what should we do now? Holy Lord Yuan Yang said coldly, don't they want resources? Let them come and get it in person. In addition, this matter must be reported to Senior Li in time. Holy Lord Ling Chao said, That's so good. Immediately afterwards, Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land spoke together. Don't the Divine Sword Sect and Luofu Holy Land want resources? Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land have opened the door to convenience. In 3 days, you are welcome to come and discuss the division of resources. Taiyan Holy Land and Purple Sun Holy Land welcome all challengers. As soon as these words came out, the clouds moved in all directions. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 63. The words spoken by the two holy places immediately caused endless waves. Let's make it clear, this is a head-on battle. No fear at all. It says that you are welcome to come and discuss it, but in fact, it is a response to the Divine Sword Sect and the Luofu Holy Land. Very tough, welcome all challengers. Haha, there's something good to watch this time. The entire Southern Territory is paying attention to this matter. At the same time, many holy lands, aristocratic families, etc. that were not involved also began to become active. Many Holy Land sects frequently dispatched Xuanhuan sect and Luofu Holy Land. After all, after coming to the Southern Territory, the major Holy Land sects were far inferior to before, and the resources they received were too limited. In this case, everyone will covet Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land. I have been afraid to move, just because no one wants to be the first to stand up, suffer verbal criticism from the world, and wear a hat of ungratefulness. Now that the two major forces have come forward, it will be different. Luofu Holy Land. In the newly built hall, more than a dozen powerful men gathered, all of whom were powerful figures from various sects. They are all here for this matter. Brother Taoist, Taiyan Holy Land and Purple Sun Holy Land have been entrenched in the Southern Territory for many years, and their background is definitely not weak. Now that they have spoken, I am afraid they are already prepared. The person who spoke was an old sect leader from Zhongzhou, with a worried look on his face. However, Holy Lord Luofu showed a sneer on his face and said, the sects of the southern region are just barbarians. Compared with the power of our Zhongzhou, their so-called background is not worth mentioning. Don't worry, this time, if they are willing to give, they have to give, and if they are not willing to give, they have to give. He is extremely confident. Because, in just a few days, his strength has increased rapidly, reaching a level that is enough to dominate the Xiantian realm. He believes that the current Holy Lord Ling Chao and Holy Lord Yuan Yang are definitely no match for him. Divine Sword Sect. There are also a bunch of sects gathered here, but they are mainly dominated by the forces from the Northern Territory. Sect Master Cao, your complexion is getting better and better. You must have made another breakthrough in your cultivation recently. A middle-aged man spoke. He was also an elder from a quasi-Holy Land level force. Cao Yujian, the leader of the Divine Sword Sect, showed a complacent smile on his lips and said, small progress is not worth mentioning. In the past few days, he has become more and more confident. Before that, he was still worried. After all, the Divine Sword Sect was only a quasi-Holy Land level force and was not strong enough to compete with Taiyan Holy Land and others. However, the gift from that true immortal greatly increased his strength. But sect leader Cao, Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land must have made preparations this time. I wonder what your plans are. Another leader spoke. To deal with the small Purple Sun Holy Land and Taiyan Holy Land, do you need any other plans? Cao Yujian spoke proudly and said, in 3 days, they will understand who is the real master in Xiantian realm. And at this moment, Ling Chao and Holy Master Yuan Yang have invited Mu Jianing and others to Taiyan Holy Land. Goddess Jianning, according to common sense, Luofu Holy Land and Shenjian sect should not be so arrogant. We suspect that there may be a deeper secret in this matter, so we specially invite you to come. Holy Lord Ling Chao spoke. Mu Jianing's face was a little angry and she said, these people are so bad. We obviously have good intentions and let them take refuge in the southern territory. Who knew that they would repay kindness with hatred like this? Hey, Qianning, this is the human heart. Huo Linger said, looked at Ling Chao and the other two, and said, don't worry, we will meet these people together with you 2 in 3 days. Now, they still have several treasures given by Li Fan in their hands. If they really match up, even a true immortal will not be afraid. Mu Qianning also said, yes, don't be afraid of them, even Senior Li will not tolerate this kind of behavior. Hearing this, Holy Master Ling Chao and Holy Master Yuan Yang were completely relieved. What Mu Qianning said was almost equivalent to Senior Li's attitude. Whatever comes, they are not afraid. Time flies. Soon, 3 days passed. Today is the day when major holy places come to Taiyan Holy Land for intensive discussions. Not only the Divine Sword Sect and the Luofu Holy Land, but also other major holy places and forces came, including Sahang Shenzai, Dugu family, Shenglong dynasty, West Desert Kongming Temple, etc. Although these forces have not directly stated their attitude, it is obvious that at critical moments, they will definitely want a share of the pie. The mountain gate of Taiyan Holy Land opens. One after another, the airships fell down. Big figures came out one by one and walked towards the main hall of Taiyan Holy Land. Holy Lord Luofu has arrived. The arrival of a spaceship attracted everyone's attention. I saw Holy Lord Luofu walking away with his hands behind his back, followed by a group of elders. One of them, the elder of Luofu Holy Land, was wearing a layer of linen under his robes. He glanced at the entire Taiyan Holy Land with no expression on his face. Cao Yujian, the leader of the Divine Sword Sect, is also here. Someone spoke again, and Cao Yujian also arrived. Similarly, behind him were a group of elders from the Divine Sword Sect, one of whom was also wearing a layer of linen clothes under his outer robe. The two arrived and attracted everyone's attention. After all, they were the ones who started this war. Comrades, please come and take a seat in the main hall. A supreme elder from Taiyan Holy Land personally greeted him. Not long after, everyone had entered the meeting hall of Taiyan Holy Land. When everyone looked around, they saw Mu Qianning and Huo Linger sitting at the top and in the middle. Holy Lord Ling Chao and Holy Lord Yuan Yang were sitting on both sides of them. Everyone has arrived, and the sect is shining brightly. Holy Lord Ling Chao spoke calmly and said, I heard that Brother Luofu and Brother Cao are not satisfied with the power of our southern territory. Very direct. Divine Sword Sect Cao Yujian sneered and said, it's not that we are dissatisfied, it's just that we need to be more fair. Everyone was shocked. The smell of gunpowder was very strong. What is fair? Holy Lord Yuan Yang said coldly, you are suffering from the disaster of destruction in the other 4 regions. We in the southern region have opened the door of convenience for you to enter this pure land. What is the result? The Divine Sword Sect seizes the Taiyan Holy Land. The city and the Holy Land of Luofu are threatened with holy war. Is this what you call fair? Do you really think our holy land in the southern territory is easy to bully? His voice shocked the field. He. At this time, Holy Lord Luofu sneered and said, the southern territory is the southern territory of the Xiantian realm, not the southern territory of your Xiang Holy Land and Taiyan Holy Land. Everyone has a share in the southern territory, and those who are capable will live there. If you can't do it, you should get out. After saying that, he slapped the table, and suddenly, an overwhelming aura burst out. An almost immortal aura instantly filled the venue, making everyone look shocked. At least those who came here were all supremes, but the power of Holy Lord Luofu at this moment made them feel breathless. Quasi-immortal. Holy Lord Luofu has actually reached the quasi-immortal realm. How terrifying! If immortals don't come out, quasi-immortals will be the pinnacle of Xiantian realm. No wonder Luofu Holy Land is unwilling to let others down. Everyone was shocked. Even Holy Lord Sahang, Dugushenlu, etc. were all unexpected. While being shocked, everyone also felt that they understood the reason why Luofu Holy Land challenged the Southern Territory. With the highest combat power in the entire Xiantian realm, how could he be inferior to others? When Ling Chao saw this, he also said coldly, "Brother Luofu, you are so powerful. It's just that relying on the power of a quasi-immortal to engulf the Southern Territory, I'm afraid that's not enough, right?" When everyone heard this, they all flashed with thoughts. Is there any backup plan in Taiyan Holy Land that can resist the quasi-immortal? One quasi-immortal is not enough, so what about the two? At this time, Cao Eugian of the Divine Sword sect said coldly, waved his hand, and the long sword was already unsheathed in his hand. The powerful sword intention was like flowing water, washing through everyone's heart. The power is not weaker than that of Holy Lord Luofu. Another quasi-immortal. Two quasi-immortals. At this moment, everyone was completely shocked and couldn't calm down. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 64. Two Quasi-Immortals. The Supreme Lords and Holy Lords present all opened their eyes wide and looked at it in surprise. Although it is surprising that Holy Master Luofu can possess the cultivation level of a quasi-immortal, it is not unacceptable. After all, it is a holy place with profound heritage and long history. However, the leader of the Divine Sword sect is actually a quasi-immortal. Another quasi-immortal is coming, it's too scary. There have never been any rumors before. The two of them are really hiding too deeply. Two quasi-immortals, only the most glorious era in history will appear in such a grand occasion. The two quasi-immortals are speaking together, who can stop them? Not even the Holy Land. For a time, everyone spoke with emotion. Holy Lord Sahang and other powerful men also looked solemn. Two quasi-immortals looked proudly at the field. I think the opinions of Brother Luofu and Brother Cao are not wrong. At this time, Holy Lord Sahang smiled slightly and said, Brother Ling Chao and Taoist Yuan Yang, you should be more generous. Take sides. Sahang Shenzai had not expressed her stance before. It was not until this moment that the two quasi-immortals revealed their identities and they were already sure of winning. Haha, our holy dragon royal family thinks so too. We are all one family in the Xiantian realm. We can't let you two eat the meat and let others eat the chaff, right? Famous mountains and rivers, cave heaven blessed land, spiritual stone veins, etc. should all be taken out and reopened. Distribute. An emperor of the Shenlong dynasty also sneered and spoke. Yes, it should be so. The southern territory belongs to everyone. Purple Sun Holy Land and Taiyan Holy Land occupy too much. For a time, everyone in the door spoke out about any strength coming from outside the southern territory. If I had maintained silence before, it was completely unnecessary now. The carving up of the southern territory was a foregone conclusion the moment the two quasi-immortals appeared. Therefore, you must speak now so that you can easily get a share of the pie. Seeing this scene, Mu Jianing and others in the first seat had very ugly expressions. Is this the human heart? There is no distinction between good and evil at all, there is only the law of the jungle. What, are you mute? I'll give you some face. I hope you can save some face. If you insist on forcing me to take action, I'm afraid you will end your sect. At this time, Cao Eugian was threatening again, and his sword intent was even stronger. Goddess Jianning, Goddess Ling Holy Master Ling Chao and Holy Master Yuan Yang stood up together, saluted Huo Ling and Mu Jianing, and said, we are forced to face the enemy. Mu Jianing and Huo Ling both nodded. Then, Ling Chao and the two turned around. Do you really think that the Southern Territory is a place where you can do whatever you want? Holy Master Ling Chao shouted loudly, his long hair danced wildly, and in an instant, surging spiritual power surged out like a huge wave. Quasi-immortal. Another quasi-immortal. At this moment, everyone in the venue was shocked. Quasi-immortal? Are you the only one? Holy Lord Yuan Yang also shouted angrily, and his cultivation was also released, sweeping across the field, forcing Holy Lord Luofu and Cao Yujian to retreat. Another quasi-immortal. In an instant, 4 quasi-immortals appeared in succession. For a moment, everyone in the hall was shocked. Dead silence, dead silence. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. Quasi-immortal. On weekdays, you can't see it at all in the Xiantian realm. However, now 4 of them appeared all at once. This is unbelievable. Oh my god, there are actually 2 quasi-immortals in the Southern Territory, isn't it terrible? 2 quasi-immortals are not afraid of 2 quasi-immortals at all. Is this the confidence of the Southern Territory? What kind of opportunity does the Southern Territory have? In such a wild land, 2 quasi-immortals can be raised. Everyone murmured in shock. Many of the forces in the Southern Territory who had just opened their mouth suddenly regretted it at this moment. So sloppy. Just now, it was clear that the Divine Sword Sect and the Luofu Holy Land were already invincible. Who would have thought that in an instant, 2 quasi-immortals would emerge from the southern region? It's not certain who will win. Oh my god, these 2 are actually quasi-immortals, but they both respect those 2 girls very much. What are their identities? Holy Lord Sahang's beautiful eyes fell on Mu Jianing and Huo Linger in the center. She thought too much, her expression was extremely solemn, and she instantly regretted it. There are already 2 quasi-immortals in the 2 major holy lands, Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land. If there is a more terrifying existence behind them, then other domains have no chance of winning. Wrong bet. Many smart people were thinking about her at this moment, but were watching Huo Ling or Mu Jianing. At this moment, Cao Yujian and Holy Lord Luofu were both very surprised. The other party is actually a quasi-immortal. They were surprised. At the same time, they all shrank in their hearts. Is there really something extraordinary standing behind the other party? At this moment, Holy Lord Luofu felt a moment of hesitation in his heart. However, when he hesitated, an icy chill came from behind. He suddenly felt something stirred in his heart. There was a true immortal behind him, and it was not his turn to make the decision. Now, at this point, there is no way back. Haha, quasi-immortal 2 versus 2, I'm very curious, can you 2 supreme beings from the Holy Lands compete with the Holy Lords from the 4 major realms of Xiantian realm? Holy Lord Luofu spoke. Hearing this, everyone was silent. Indeed, when the top combat power reaches a balance, the supreme level and Holy Master level power will determine the outcome. In terms of the number of Holy Lord level and Supreme level, the 4 major domains have a complete victory. Even if you are quasi-immortals, you will still lose today. Together, our foundation is far stronger than yours. Cao Yujian spoke even more ferociously. The war is about to break out? You've gone too far. At this time, Mu Jianing couldn't help but speak. Her face turned red, she stood up and said, "The Southern Territory has opened the door for convenience to save you from disaster, but in the end you repay kindness with hatred, and repay kindness with hatred. You guys are going too far." However, Cao Yujian just smiled and said, "So what if it's too much? In the face of strength, everything is in vain. You are just an ant in the Mahayana realm, but you dare to be arrogant in front of a quasi-immortal. Do you want to die?" He is threatening Mu Jianing. You're really looking for death. Huo Linger shook his head and stood up, secretly holding the scroll given by Senior Li in his sleeve. This time, she brought it with her for emergencies. She stood side by side with Mu Qianning, with murderous intent already in her heart. Yuan Yang and Ling Chao were even more shocked. If Huo Ling'er and Mu Qianning took action, all the powerful men in the Four Realms would be wiped out. All real immortals will die. However, they didn't say anything. All of this was the result of the strong men from the four major domains seeking their own death. Those who dared to threaten the people favored by Senior Li deserved to die. At this moment, in the crowd, the two middle-aged men wearing linen under their robes looked at Mu Qianning and Huo Ling'er. For an instant, horror flashed in their eyes. These two women have unimaginable immortal treasures on them. One of them spoke in a low voice. It makes me feel a terrible threat. Once born, I'm afraid you and I will die on the spot. The other person transmitted the message directly. The two of them looked at each other from afar, and both saw the fear in each other's eyes. Don't act recklessly, hold on steady first. The two true immortals immediately reached a consensus. It seems that there is really a strong man sitting in the southern territory, and it is very likely that he is a strong man from the immortal territory. One of them spoke. Yes, these two women are probably the disciples under the existence. We can't fight directly, otherwise we will expose ourselves, but we can't just retreat, otherwise we won't be able to test each other's depth. The two communicated quickly. I suddenly thought, since that person exists and has disciples under his command, why not start with them? We dare not directly force anyone to take action, but by forcing his disciples to take action, we can also see his origins. So. The two quickly reached a consensus. Immediately, they sent a message to Cao Yujian and Holy Lord Luofu. When they heard the transmissions from the two true immortals, Holy Lord Luofu and Cao Yujian's expressions changed. Actually, you want them to step back. They have already been torn apart, but at this moment they are not allowed to continue to force a fight. Cao Yujian and Holy Lord Luofu were puzzled to the extreme. But at the same time, they did not dare to disobey the orders of the two true immortals. Haha, we are not domineering people. At this time, Holy Lord Luofu suddenly spoke and said, you and I have already proven to be quasi-immortals. Once a war breaks out, all life in the southern territory will be devastated. So, how about we change the approach? He looked at Holy Lord Ling Chao and Holy Lord Yuan Yang. Ling Chao Yuan Yang looked at each other. What do you want to say? Ling Chao said. It's very simple. How about letting the younger generation compete and decide the allocation of resources in the southern region based on their victory or defeat? Holy Lord Luofu spoke. Hearing this, everyone in the venue was surprised. Holy Lord Luofu actually took a step back. To be honest, in the eyes of everyone, the four major domains now have the advantage. Because there are too many of them. What, don't you dare. If you agree, I will let you go today. Cao Yujian also spoke in a deep voice. At this time, everyone was confused. The two quasi-immortals actually took a step back even though they had all the advantages. This is probably the best way. At this moment, Holy Master Kongming of the Western Desert suddenly spoke and said, since the conflict is irreconcilable, it is a good thing for all parties to decide the outcome like this. Dugu Shenlu, who had been silent, also said, I agree. Seeing that the two quasi-immortals and the two most powerful Saint Lord figures had already spoken, others had no choice but to echo them one by one. Young people come to a decisive battle. Goddess Jianning and Goddess Ling what do you think? Holy Master Ling Chao and Holy Master Yuan Yang looked at Huo Ling and Mu Qianning. Mu Qianning said, the two holy masters have decided that no matter what you do, we will support you. Hearing this, the two holy masters immediately felt relieved in their eyes. Okay, in that case, our two holy places agreed to your challenge on behalf of the Southern Territory. 3 days from now, the young generation of the Southern Territory will face off against the four great geniuses. Holy Lord Yuanyang and Holy Lord Ling Chao spoke. They agreed. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 65. Fight in the Southern Territory. Everyone in the main hall had stern expressions on their faces. No one expected that the tense situation just now would be relieved in an instant. That's good. Avoiding a quasi-mortal battle is a good thing for the entire Xiantian realm. Yes, if the four quasi-mortals fight, I don't know how many cultivators will be affected. The four major regions still have advantages. In terms of the younger generation, the geniuses from the southern region are bound to be inferior to the geniuses from the four major regions. For a time, everyone spoke one after another. Almost everyone agreed with this plan. Haha, okay, in 3 days, I'll be right here, letting you barbarians from the Southern Territory see what a real genius is. Cao Eugen spoke coldly. After speaking, he waved his sleeves and turned to leave. I hope the young generation in the southern region will not disappoint me. Holy Lord Luofu also finished speaking calmly and left. No one from other forces stayed. Let's go back to the sect quickly and pick out the most powerful geniuses. In 3 days, they will go out to fight on behalf of the sect. Yes, as long as we achieve good results in this battle for the younger generation, the sect will get more resources in the Southern Territory. Hey, this time, those geniuses from my sect are going to shine. Outside Taiyan Holy Land, spaceships took off one after another. All the major forces have left. Goddess Jianning, Goddess Ling Er. After everyone left, Yuanyang and Ling Chao looked at Mu Jianning. The Holy Land of Luofu and the Divine Sword sect are approaching fiercely. They are clearly prepared to fight at all costs, but when you two stood up, their attitudes changed instantly. It seemed so weird. I think maybe they saw something from you two and felt shocked, so they took a step back. Holy Lord Yuanyang spoke solemnly and said, I suspect that there may be someone else behind them. They are all Holy Lord level figures, so they can naturally see something fishy. Yes, and I can be sure that when they first arrived in the Southern Territory, Holy Lord Luofu and Cao Eugen both reached the quasi-mortal realm. In less than a month, how could they enter the realm so quickly? I'm afraid, someone is supporting them behind the scenes. Ling Chao also spoke. They all got the gift from Senior Li and were able to cross that chasm, and they deeply understood how difficult it was to become a quasi-mortal. There must be ghosts in Holy Lord Luofu and Cao Eugen. Huo Linger nodded and said, Jianning, maybe we should report this matter to Senior Li. Mu Jianning said, I'll tell Senior Li right now. Luofu Holy Land. In the secret room. Master, we are ready to take over the Southern Territory in one battle, why do you? Holy Lord Luofu asked cautiously, with a look of confusion on his face. They clearly have all the advantages. Even though it is difficult to have two quasi-mortals, which is beyond their surprise, but with the major sects in the four major regions, they are still confident to win the southern region. Hearing this, the middle-aged man in linen in front of him gave her a cold look and said, Are you qualified to question my decision? Hearing this, Holy Lord Luofu suddenly changed his expression and hurriedly knelt down on the ground with a plop, saying hastily, How dare you? The person in front of me is a true immortal. With just one glance, he can turn Holy Lord Luofu into ashes. Humph. It doesn't hurt to tell you that in those two girls, I sensed an immortal treasure that surpassed the level of a true immortal. Hearing this, Holy Lord Luofu's expression changed drastically. A treasure that surpasses the level of a true immortal. Doesn't this mean that behind Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land, there really is a being who surpasses the true immortal? If this is the case, then aren't you and others looking for death? However, you don't have to worry, even if Xianxian comes, nothing will be changed. Leng Bingjing, a middle-aged man wearing linen, said, "Hurry up and find the best disciples from your sect for me. I will make them invincible in the shortest possible time. Since we want to test the existence behind Taiyan Holy Land and others through this young generation competition, we must put in a lot of effort to give the geniuses of Luofu Holy Land the strength to force the opponent to use all their cards." Hearing this, Holy Lord Luofu took a deep breath and said, "Yes. I'll go find him right now." No matter what, having reached this point, there is no turning back. Moreover, it is a great good thing for the entire Luofu Holy Land that the younger generation of the sect can get the guidance of the true immortal Divine Sword Sect. These three losers are the best disciples of your Divine Sword Sect. Luo Ming looked at the three young people in front of him with disdain. 2 men and 1 woman, both are the strongest seed-level figures in the Divine Sword Sect. Hearing Luo Ming's contemptuous words, the three of them looked very ugly, but they did not dare to be disrespectful, because the sect leader said that this person is now the master of their entire Divine Sword Sect. They knew, however, that the reason why the sect leader became a quasi-immortal was probably due to this gift. Cao Yujian hurriedly flattered, "Master, although they are all useless, I believe that after Master's training, they will definitely become invincible this time. Sweep the entire southern territory." "No, the entire Xiantian realm." Luo Ming snorted coldly and said, "You know what's going on." After speaking, he looked at the three young people and said, "Kneel down, I will teach you the peerless immortal skills. Cao Shuang, Xiaotong, and Zhang Dujian, why don't you kneel down and listen to your master's teachings?" Cao Yujian even scolded hurriedly. The three young people all knelt down instantly, and Luo Ming stepped forward and stretched out his hand. Suddenly, the golden runes that turned into reality emitted from his palm, turned into 3 streams of light, and entered the three people. In the brain. Now. In the peaceful small mountain village, Li Fan was basking in the sun in the yard. Several days have passed, and no one has come to pay homage. This makes Li Fan very boring. There is still a full 8 short of the system's number of 10 disciples. Can it be completed in the year of the monkey and the month of the horse? These days, when he has free time, he teaches his disciples, or sits with a cup of tea, listening to a piece of music, and spends his days peacefully. Chic. After these days of baptism with the holy medicine feast, Lu Rang was able to hold on to the hoe, and his cultivation level skyrocketed again. Every time he ate a meal, terrifying fairy spirit energy entered his body, and the subsequent plowing helped him refine the expanding spiritual energy. In just a few days, he had reached the cave realm and was about to enter the Mahayana. With Master, the shackles between realms seemed to not exist. Lu Rang once again raised the hoe with difficulty. He was so tired that he was sweating profusely, but he was filled with happiness. On the other side, Long Xuanhuan is also advancing rapidly. He has reached the Mahayana stage, and his dragon soul is becoming more perfect and powerful, transforming every day. The time he could continue to observe the koi swimming also became longer. "I want to work hard and catch up with the 2 senior sisters as soon as possible," he murmured, took another deep breath, and observed the koi again. On the other side, the south wind was like a beautiful lady, caressing the gentle sound of the piano, and she was completely intoxicated by it. After Li Fan's constant guidance, she had broken away from the confinement of fingering and had a kind of aura. However, at this moment, Nanfan was gradually falling into a confused Taoist realm. She felt that the sound of her piano seemed to turn into a kite of light, taking her flying to the 9 heavens. She seemed to have seen the endless fairy palace in the clouds, saw the immortals, and saw the complicated lights and shadows. However, she was confused at the same time. "Where are you? Where is the road? How should I go about it? How should I do it?" She turned back, but couldn't see the way she came. The palace in front of her was so beautiful that it seemed that as long as she was willing, She could step into it and enjoy everything. However, there was a kind of panic and deep confusion in her heart. Like a drowning child. Now. In the small courtyard, Zi-Ling, who was painting, Lu Rang, who was hoeing, and Long Xuanhuan, who was watching the fish, suddenly turned their heads and looked at Nanfan. They saw that Nanfang closed his eyes tightly and plucked the strings with his bare hands, and streams of fairy charm actually emanated from it. "Senior sister, have you touched the immortal way?" Long Xuanhuan spoke in shock. Sister Nanfan is going to break through. Zi-Ling also opened her mouth. They all felt that Nanfan was in a mysterious state at this moment. Next to him, Li Fan listened to her piano sound and felt it was quite pleasant, but he noticed a hint of chaos. He then gently clasped his fingers on the stone table, matching the melody played by Nanfang. Gently guide and let the south wind return to its proper melody. The moment his fingers landed on the stone table. Trapped in the Taoist realm, Nanfan was confused and confused. All the fairy mist in front of her suddenly dispersed. It was as if there was an inexplicable melody in the distance, which made her find herself instantly. All illusions disappeared. She turned back and found the way she came. She saw each of her former selves, although they were weak, they were always moving forward. "I'm always me," she murmured, and the next moment, Nanfan, who had his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. For a moment, a pale golden fairy light flashed in her eyes. The sound of the piano also stopped suddenly. "I saw that door, I have become a quasi-immortal," she murmured subconsciously, and looked up at Li Fan in shock. She saw Li Fan's mouth curled up slightly, showing a look of approval, and said, "Playing well. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert." Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 66. In the small courtyard, Zi-Ling opened her mouth wide enough to fit a native egg. Long Xuanhuan's face was shocked, and he had an incredible look on his face. Senior sister is only about 20 years old, and she has already become a quasi-immortal. Isn't it terrible? Looking at the entire Xiantian realm, this is definitely an unprecedented speed of cultivation. Lu Rang had a complicated look on his face. He felt that he had entered the country very quickly. He didn't expect that his senior sister would be so perverted. However, at the same time, they are all deeply full of expectations. They all understand the reason for all this. Master. With such a master here, it seems that the immortal way that the entire Xiantian realm looks up to, is nothing. Nanfang stood up, bowed deeply to Li Fan, and said, "Thank you, Master, for your guidance. This disciple is in danger of going astray." She spoke gratefully. "A piece of cake. If you go too far on a road, you will encounter all kinds of inner demons. This is normal." Li Fan smiled, looked at Zi-Ling and others, and said, "You should also keep this in mind." Zi-Ling and others nodded deeply. "Disciple, I remember." Li Fan stood up, stretched, and said, "Your senior sister has made some progress in playing the piano. It's worth celebrating. Come on, we can eat peaches again today." He looked at the branches of the peach tree and saw that several were ripe. Li Fan was very satisfied with this peach tree. The peaches it produced were thin-skinned, juicy, and very sweet. Hearing this, several disciples were instantly excited. "That's a flat peach. The grade is probably far above that of holy medicine." They all sat at the stone table and waited obediently. Meow meow. Even Bai Xiaoqing, who was playing on the side, jumped on the stone table and guarded her position. Since she transformed into a pure-blood white tiger, she has been very energetic and has been tossing around in the small yard every day. However, she has never messed with the native chickens and carp raised in the yard and seems to be very afraid. Li Fan smiled and gently reached out to pick a few flat peaches. "Is Senior Li here?" At this time, a voice sounded outside the door. It was Mu Jianning's voice. After not seeing this girl for a long time, Li Fan immediately said, "Yes, come in." Outside the door, Huo Ling'er and Mu Jianning walked in and were a little surprised to see two more young men in the yard. "Thanks to your help, I have accepted two apprentices, Lu Rang and Long Xuanhuan." Li Fan spoke. Hearing this, Huo Ling'er and Mu Jianning were both surprised. They turned out to be Senior Li's disciples. At the same time, both of them said hurriedly, "We just did what we should do." "Senior, you are being polite." Li Fan smiled and said, "Since you're here, let's sit down so we can taste the peach together." Seeing this, Huo Ling'er and Mu Jianning's eyes lit up. "Oh my God, are you enjoying your food again?" They had already received the gift from Senior Li, so they were not restrained at this moment and sat down quickly. Li Fan cut the ripe peaches into pieces and said, "Eat them quickly." "Thank you, master." Zi Ling was the first to be polite, picked up a piece of flat peach, her big eyes were bright and full of happiness, and she took a bite. "The juice is sweet. Swallow the liquid." Boom. The cultivation base is improving crazily, and the physique is constantly being baptized. Her aura soared all the way from the fifth heaven of the combined realm, directly to the ninth heaven, and then stopped. She went from being a venerable to a supreme being. Several people around were shocked. The supreme being who is no more than 20 years old. Terrible. After Nanfan ate the flat peach, his aura also improved further. The fairy charm is wrapped around her, and her whole person is extremely holy. Is this an immortal? Huo Ling'er and others were even more shocked. But Nanfan took a deep breath, shook his head, and said, "It's not yet time." With just one mouthful of flat peach, she could transform from a quasi-immortal to an immortal. However, she deeply understands that in order to solidify the foundation, she cannot blindly seek speed. So, she suppressed it. But, this is only a matter of time. Everyone has complicated expressions. This is too evil. In the outside world, a quasi-immortal will cause endless troubles. Here, becoming an immortal is just a matter of willingness or not. Long Xuanhuan and Lu Rang also ate it. Lu Rang's cultivation level grew wildly again from the realm of Dongxiu, directly reaching the 8th level of Mahayana. Long Xuanhuan entered the venerable realm. Both of them were in a trance, feeling that everything in front of them was too unreal. Huo Ling'er and Mu Jianning were also full of expectations and finished eating quickly. Their cultivation levels also skyrocketed. The two of them have already been in the Mahayana stage, and now they have both entered the realm of the Supreme Being, not far from the Supreme Being. In Senior Li's place, the blessings that the world prays for are so casual. Even though she had received many gifts, Huo Ling'er still looked complicated. Senior Li is the best person in the world. Mu Jianning's eyes sparkled and she admired Li Fan to the extreme. Li Fan didn't have time to take care of a few people. After Xiaobai finished eating, he was now pestering him to help rub his belly. "You are too greedy. You always eat so much." Li Fan smiled and rubbed Bai Xiaoking's belly. Everyone's eyes were filled with envy. Is this the happiest pet in the world? Let Li Fan, a terrifying and powerful figure, rub her belly to help her digestion. Mu Jianning's beautiful eyes were filled with envy. This cat, no, this white tiger has unimaginable blessings. With Senior Li rubbing it like this, it doesn't even have to spend time refining the fairy aura of the peach. Huo Ling'er lamented that if she could, she would want to become this cat. Real people are not as good as cats. Bai Xiaoqing pestered Li Fan to rub her belly, and then she ran aside to play. "By the way, what's wrong with you?" After eating, Li Fan asked. Hearing this, Mu Jianning immediately said, "Senior, before, I advised seniors Yuan Yang and Ling Chao to accept people from all regions and take refuge in the Southern Territory, but now, they bite back and want to rob the Southern Territory. There was a hint of deep self-blame in her expression as she said, "It's all Qianning's fault for being confused." Li Fan shook his head and said, "You are not wrong. What's wrong is just greed in human nature. Don't blame yourself for being kind. That is the most cherished light in life. That is the most cherishable light in life." Hearing what Senior Li said, Mu Jianing suddenly felt much better. "Senior, in order to determine the ownership of the resources in the Southern Territory, those people proposed to hold a competition among young people." Huo Linger spoke up and said, "Senior, do you have any instructions?" "Young people's competition?" Li Fan was surprised. He said it was a competition between young people. To put it bluntly, it should be a fight between the two parties. Young and strong young men are not allowed to have a fight. However, he has a headache. He can't do much to help with this group fight. They've gone too far. At this time, Lu Rang spoke angrily, "How can these people be so ungrateful?" Even though he came from the Four Realms, he still couldn't stand it. Long Zixuan also nodded and said, "Repaying kindness with hatred is shameful." Seeing the two people talking, Li Fan suddenly looked at them. "Gang war? This relationship is good. Don't I happen to have two apprentices? Ahem, do you two have any experience in fighting?" Hearing this, everyone was surprised. "Senior Li. Is he going to send his own disciples?" Huo Linger and Mu Jianing's eyes were filled with anticipation instantly. If Senior Li's disciples take action, what else is there to worry about? Lu Rang and Long Zixuan were stunned for a moment. But only for a moment. "Master, we will definitely win this battle." Lu Rang stood up immediately and agreed. Long Zixuan also nodded. This is the first mission given to them by their master. They must not embarrass the master, so he said, "Disciple is willing to go." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 67. Lu Rang and Long Zixuan both agreed immediately. The two looked at each other, with a hint of excitement and anticipation in their eyes. When Li Fan saw this, he nodded and said, "Okay, in that case, you go with Qianning and the others." "As you command." The two spoke immediately. "Well, since you are going to fight in a group, it is absolutely wrong to have no weapons. You have to find a handy weapon." Li Fan thought about it and said, "I do have a few sharp weapons, but if I hand them over to you, I'm afraid it will lead to murder, so, you two, take a look, are there any weapons in this yard that you can take advantage of?" he asked. The system had previously rewarded him with several swords, spears and other weapons, but those things were very sharp. Li Fan still has some experience in group fights. Carrying sharp weapons can easily cause casualties, and the price will be too high. However, after hearing Li Fan's words, several people understood instantly. Senior Li's so-called sharp weapons are probably world-destroying weapons. This world simply cannot bear them, so they cannot be used easily. Huo Linger had a knowing expression. Long Zixuan and Lu Rang stood up and said, "Yes, we will go find him right now." They immediately scanned the courtyard. After these few days, they have understood that this small courtyard is full of terrifying artifacts, and any one of them is enough to shock the world. For example, the hoe used by Lu Rang to hoe the ground, he knew, was definitely beyond the realm of immortal weapons, and its level was unimaginable. He was already in the Mahayana realm, but he could still barely lift it, and this was without causing fluctuations in the Taoist charm of the hoe. For example, the bowl used by Long Zixuan to hold bait. Long Zixuan understood deeply that it was very terrifying. He doubted that the bowl could suppress a real dragon. There are so many treasures in this small courtyard, but with our current cultivation, there are very few that we can use, therefore, Master asked us to choose what we can control according to our ability. Long Xuanhuan sent a message to Lu Rang. Lu Rang nodded and said with a headache, Master, the things here are too extraordinary. We can't use just anything. Long Xuanhuan glanced around the small courtyard. Suddenly, he remembered something and said, I remembered it. He immediately walked into the kitchen quickly. Then he came back with a grey stick. Burn a fire stick. Yeah, why didn't I think of that? Lu Rang slapped his head. This fire stick is also something beyond the immortal weapon, but perhaps because a few apprentices occasionally need to light fires on weekdays, they can barely use it. I got something for you too. Long Xuanhuan smiled slightly and actually took out a chopstick. A wooden chopstick. Okay, okay, okay. Lu Rang cheered repeatedly and took the chopsticks, overjoyed. He has the lowest level of cultivation. It is already very difficult to eat with 2 chopsticks on weekdays, because these chopsticks are also rare treasures. A chopstick is just right and he can barely use it. Master, we have both chosen weapons. Long Xuanhuan reported to Li Fan. Looking at the weapons chosen by his 2 apprentices, Li Fan instantly doubted himself. Aren't these 2 fools? I don't give them sharp weapons because I'm afraid of hurting people's lives, and maybe they will be arrested and put in jail in the end. But of these 2 guys, one chooses a fire stick and the other chooses chopsticks? Does this look like you are going to start a group fight? This is a gift to others. He was speechless. That's all, it seems that these 2 people really have no experience in fighting, so they can only fight for heads. That's all, I won't say anything as a teacher. When you fight, just stay far away and don't hurt yourself. Li Fan could only say this, hoping that these 2 disciples would not rush to the front foolishly. The 2 of them nodded like chickens pecking at rice. The master was so considerate. He knew that the 2 of them were not strong enough to use such a terrifying weapon, so he specifically asked. Thank you, Senior. In that case, we will go back and inform Senior Yuan Yang and the others. If they know that Senior has sent a disciple, they will definitely be overjoyed. Mu Qianning spoke happily. Go ahead. Li Fan nodded. Immediately, Long Xuanhuan and Lu Rang left together with Huo Linger and others. Master, actually, if the 2 junior brothers can't win, it will be us next time. After they left, Nanfan spoke. She was unwilling to recommend herself just now because she and Ziling, a quasi-immortal and a supreme being, it would be too ungrateful to compete with the younger generation. When Li Fan heard this, he was stunned. A girl who played the piano suddenly said that she would take her junior sister who was painting out to fight in a group. Too special a girl was disobeying. Outside world. Luofu Holy Land. Haha, I have entered the 8th level of the Mahayana. A young man in a golden robe laughed heartily and stood in front of a waterfall. His whole person was full of power. In just 2 days, he rushed from the 1st level of Dongxu to the 7th level of Mahayana. What a concept! What a leap! Hey, senior brother Wu Ming, I am a little inferior to you, but I have also reached the 8th level of Mahayana. Beside him, a rather thin young man with very sinister eyes also spoke with a smile. You too have received the gift from the master. This time, you must take over the entire southern region for our Luofu Holy Land. Holy Lord Luofu looked at the 2 of them, his eyes filled with excitement and confidence. Among the entire young generation of Xiantian realm, looking at the Holy Land, those who can reach the realm of Dongxu are regarded as the top geniuses. For example, Wu Ming, who had reached the 1st level of Dongxu before and came to the southern territory, was already a peerless genius who was famous in Zhongzhou. Now, he has broken through to the 8th level of Mahayana. Such a state is enough to make people of the older generation proud. How can other forces compete with him for the Luofu Holy Land? This time, dominating the entire southern region, is just around the corner. Above the waterfall, the middle-aged man wearing linen stood with his hands behind his hands, looking coldly at the people below. I burned all my potential and life in exchange for 3 days of reaching the ultimate peak, but I can't even enter the immortal way. What a waste. He shook his head. I just hope that you two losers can let me see some clues about the person behind this competition. Divine Sword Sect. Base. The long sword cuts through the air. The unparalleled sword energy is like a long dragon, very powerful. Senior brother Xuanhuan has entered the realm of the venerable. Too strong. Xia Tong and Zhang Dujian both looked at Xuanhuan in shock and admiration. Xuanhuan laughed loudly and withdrew his long sword. He was full of a sense of invincibility and said, "Just right, I have taken one step further than you and crossed the line between the Mahayana and the combined realm." His eyes were filled with pride. Xia Tong and Zhang Dujian were both in the Mahayana stage, but he had gone extremely far and entered the realm of the venerable. Senior brother is less than 30 years old, isn't he? A venerable man who is less than 30 years old, is as bright as ever. Xia Tong looked at Xuanhuan, her eyes filled with admiration. Senior brother, as soon as this sword is released, the Divine Sword Sect will leap forward and become the largest sect in the southern region. Zhang Dujian also praised. In the pavilion on one side, Xuanhuan knelt down to Luo Ming excitedly and said, "Thank you so much, Master, thank you so much, Master. We, the Divine Sword Sect, will do our best for our Master without hesitation." Xuanhuan is his grandson, and now he has become a sage. This is a major event that will be recorded in the history of cultivation in the entire Xiantian realm. There is hope for the Divine Sword Sect to become a holy land, or even surpass it. As for this written test, he believed that there was no need to fight. If the outside world knew that his grandson had become a venerable, all parties would surrender directly. Luo Ming just smiled and said, "If this performance satisfies me, you will get more." Xuanhuan kowtowed quickly. Luo Ming said coldly in his heart, "If you can satisfy me, maybe after the written test, I can give you 1 or 2 fairy medicines to extend the lives of your 3 useless disciples. Otherwise, I will let their lives burn after all is gone, the spirit and soul will be destroyed." Now, Taiyan Holy Land. When Holy Master Yuan Yang and Holy Master Ling Chao learned that Huo Ling'er and others had returned, they went out to greet them from a distance and were very respectful. "Goddess Ling'er, Goddess Jianning, what did Senior Li say? Who are these two?" Holy Lord Ling Chao spoke. Huo Ling'er immediately said, "Senior Li learned about this and sent 2 of his recently recruited disciples to help us." She introduced, "This is Lu Rang, and this is Long Zixuan." Lu Rang and Long Zixuan also bowed slightly and said, "I came here to help in the battle as ordered by my master." Suddenly, Holy Master Yuan Yang and Holy Master Ling Chao were overjoyed. Senior Li's apprentice took action personally, so what else is there to worry about? By the way, Mr. Long, your aura seems to be slightly similar to that of the Holy Dragon Dynasty. At this time, Holy Lord Yuan Yang suddenly asked. Long Zixuan did not deny it and said, "To be honest with you too, before I became a disciple, I was the deposed prince of the Shenlong dynasty." Lu Rang also said carelessly, "Before I became a disciple, I was an outer disciple of the Divine Sword Sect." Hearing this, Holy Master Yuan Yang and Holy Master Ling Chao were even more shocked. "I have vaguely heard that the deposed prince of the Holy Dragon Dynasty has a crippled dragon soul and cannot practice cultivation. But Mr. Long, your aura." Ling Chao spoke in surprise. Even though he is already a quasi-immortal, he can now feel the dragon soul energy in Long Zixuan's body. It is very surging and powerful, and his cultivation level has reached the level of the venerable. At the same time, he also glanced at Lu Rang. An outer disciple of the Divine Sword Sect should be at the lowest level, but Lu Rang has actually reached the 8th level of the Mahayana. How could a deposed prince and a low-level disciple of the outer sect have such a level of cultivation? This makes it impossible for people to live. But Long Xuanhuan smiled and said, "That's true. The progress of both of us is thanks to the teacher." Hearing this, Holy Master Ling Chao and Holy Master Yuan Yang both had complicated expressions, but their doubts were instantly eliminated. Yes, how can Senior Li's apprentice be treated with common sense? Yuan Yang spoke, but there was a hint of envy in his old eyes. Even if he is a loser, as long as he is in the hands of Senior Li, he can still shine with peerless light. It's a pity that he is really too old. He was sad. Soon, the third day comes. Today is the day of decisive battle between the younger generation of the southern region and the 4 major regions. This battle will determine the ownership of the southern territory. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 68. The third day comes. Today, everyone is paying attention and the storm is raging. Almost all major forces in the entire Xiantian realm are rushing to Taiyan Holy Land today. Since 3 days ago, it was decided that the younger generation would decide the allocation of resources. In the past 3 days, the strongest members of the younger generation from all major sects have been stepping up their training. Today, everyone will participate. Outside Taiyan Holy Land, airships kept flying in, and the Grand Taiyan Holy Land became like a busy city. We have arrived at Kongming Temple in the West Desert. Zhongzhou Sahang Shenzai has arrived. The Zhongzhou Holy Dragon Dynasty has arrived. The Dugu family is here. The Divine Sword sect has arrived. The big forces arrived one after another. In Taiyan Holy Land, a huge martial arts stage has been built. The martial arts stage is several kilometers wide and is made of the hardest iron spirit stone. In addition, the Taiyan Holy Land is blessed with the power of the Holy Land Array, which is enough to withstand the impact of the venerable level. Around the martial arts stage, the stepped auditorium was already full of people. In the center are the seats of the heads of each sect. At this moment, Holy Master Ling Chao and Holy Master Yuan Yang have already taken their seats, and sitting between them are Huo Linger and Mu Jianing. Saint Master Kongming from the West Desert, Dugu Shenlu from Zhongzhou, Master Sahangzai and others took their seats one by one. The Divine Sword sect has arrived. With a loud shout, Cao Yujian came with several elders and 3 outstanding young people. His old face was full of unruly spirit. He glanced at Ling Chao and Yuan Yang with a sneer, and said, "I hope the useless disciples of your 2 sects can live a little longer today." Noisy. Holy Lord Ling Chao said coldly, "It's not certain who will win. Haha, no matter who is killed, it is impossible for him to die at the hands of your southern territory forces." At this time, Holy Lord Luofuleng came over with a sneer. He said, "Today is a good day. The southern territory is going to change hands." The expression on his face is that he has a winning chance. Holy Master Yuan Yang and Holy Master Ling Chao looked gloomy. "Now that everyone has arrived, can we start the war now?" Holy Lord Luofu spoke. "Start the war." A shout. Little monk Qing Chen, I would like to ask for advice from my colleagues in the world on behalf of 11mo. A handsome-looking monk fell on the stage. He has an extraordinary temperament and looks very extraordinary. The head of the 9 sons of the Holy Buddha in the Western Desert. It is said that this person has the appearance of an immortal. He has always been a hidden presence in Kongming Temple. Today he actually went to war. This station determines the allocation of resources in the Southern Territory. All major sects must send their strongest. Everyone spoke one after another. Kong Yuja of Sahang Holy Zai asked the holy monk for advice. A woman in a white dress with a veil on her face floated onto the stage, holding a sword in her hand. Sahang Saint Kong Yuja, a woman who can be called a fairy-like figure. My goddess, if anyone can get her, it will be a blessing that has been cultivated in 10 lifetimes. Kong Yuja also caused a burst of exclamation. Please. Qing Chen stretched out his hand. The long sword in Kong Yuja's hand instantly turned into a flash of sword light. The two were instantly intertwined. One is a refined monk and the other is a holy saint. The two of them instantly burst out with the combat power of the Dongxu realm. So strong. After all, they are all peerless geniuses. If you can have Dongxu level combat power at this age, you may be able to achieve supreme status and explore the path of immortality in the future. It caused exclamations of surprise. The two of them went back and forth, and their fighting methods were endless. Monk Qing Chen fought to reveal the majestic Buddha body, and Kong Yuja's five-color divine light was swayed. Female donor, you lose. But in the end, with King Chen's words, the sword in Kong Yuja's hand was finally knocked off with a snap of his fingers. Thanks for showing mercy. After saying that, Kong Yuja turned around and left without lingering. Everyone in the audience shouted that it was wonderful. What a bunch of noobs pecking each other. Cao Yujian spoke loudly, Zhang Tujian, let's end this boring competition. Behind him, Zhang Tujian instantly turned into a divine rainbow and landed directly on the ring. He drew his sword directly. A powerful and direct aura emitted instantly, making countless people's hearts tremble. Heaven, Mahayana period. The Mahayana period, the 8th level of the Mahayana. How can this be? For a time, countless people were shocked. The 8th heaven of the Mahayana period. This cultivation level is terrifying. The whole place fell silent. Everyone looked on dumbfounded. Peerless genius, this is the real peerless genius. No wonder the Divine Sword sect is so confident. Holy Lord Sahang spoke helplessly and sighed deeply. Throughout ancient history, there are only a few people with such a level of cultivation. Dugu Shenlu also murmured. Under everyone's comments, Zhang Tujian sneered proudly and said, "Little monk, get out by yourself, or should I help you get down?" When Qing Chen heard this, his face turned ugly. He bit his lower lip lightly, and suddenly, he raised his hand and burst out with all his strength. There's going to be a fight after all. However, Zhang Tujian just sneered and passed by with his sword. Sword light slashes out. Puff. Qing Chen spurted out a mouthful of blood, flew out, and hit the audience hard. The monk's clothes on his body were torn and bloody. Clean the dust. Holy Master Kong Ming just flashed and appeared beside Qing Chen, hugging Qing Chen, his old eyes trembling. He's useless. Holy Master Kong Ming spoke sadly. Instantly, the whole place was in an uproar. One sword, just one sword, and the proud man of heaven, Qing Chen, was crippled. Everyone felt shocked. This is the crushing of the Mahayana realm against the Dongxu realm. There is no way to break through the natural chasm. Zhang Tujian is invincible. Everyone sighed. Haha, it is my mercy to spare him his life. Zhang Tujian sneered, looked around the field wildly, and said, who else is dissatisfied and wants to fight? The whole place was dead silent. No one dared to challenge. Monk Qing Chen already represents the top level of strength, but he is truly vulnerable in front of Zhang Tujian. Who dares to die? In the Dugu family, next to Dugu Shenlu, a silent young man in white clenched his sword and was about to step forward, but Dugu Shenlu held down the sword in his hand, shook his head and said, "The realm is suppressed, he is invincible." The young man in white was silent for a long time and finally gave up. Invincible. Although Wu Ming, the two disciples of Luofu Holy Land, were willing to fight, they did not dare to take the initiative to fight because the Holy Lord of Luofu did not say anything. After all, the two sides were on the same front. Haha, no one dares to come. Zhang Tujian looked directly at Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land and said, "Are all the people in Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land dead?" If you don't dare to fight, from today on, get out of the Southern Territory and give up all the resources in the Southern Territory. He is extremely domineering. At this moment, Cao Yujian also said directly, Yuan Yang, Ling Chao, you two are useless people, they are no match for our proud son. Kneel down and admit defeat. I can still keep you alive in the Southern Territory. Extremely proud. Holy Master Yuan Yang and Holy Master Ling Chao were silent for a moment. They really didn't expect that the Divine Sword sect would have such a disciple. It was really terrifying. It seems that there is someone really powerful behind the Divine Sword section. I'm beginning to doubt that the other party's purpose is not that simple. Holy Lord Yuan Yang spoke thoughtfully and said, fortunately, all of this is obviously within Senior Li's expectation. That's why he sent his disciples. Hearing this, Holy Master Ling Chao also nodded, turned to look at Mu Jianing and others, and said, next, we can only trouble Senior Li's disciples. Mu Jianing and Huo Linger nodded. Then, behind them, Lu Rang stood up. Zhang Tujian, Lu Rang, come to fight you. He spoke immediately. In an instant, everyone in the field was shocked. At this time, does anyone still dare to come out and seek death? Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 69. Lu Rang came out of the queue, and the sound shook the field. For a moment, everyone turned their heads, and their surprised eyes fell on Lu Rang. Lu Rang? Isn't this kid an outer disciple of our sect? Was he sent to the Kangli Mountains by me? He should have died there. An elder from the Divine Sword sect suddenly said unexpectedly. He recognized Lu Rang. Hearing this, Cao Yujian suddenly laughed wildly and said, ha ha, ha 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 ha, it's really ridiculous. Are Taiyan Holy Land and Xiang Holy Land so empty? This son Lu Rang is just a dog of our sect. I didn't expect that this dog betrayed the sect and was taken in by you. Let him come out on your behalf. How ridiculous. His face was full of sarcasm, and he insulted Lu Rang unscrupulously. Holy Lord Ling Chao looked gloomy and said, Cao Yujian, I hope you won't regret your words at this moment. Regret? Is it just him? He looked at Lu Rang with a sneer and said, you are just an abandoned disciple of my sect, but you dare to collude with outsiders. It's not too late to commit suicide now. Hearing this, Lu Rang sneered and said, old bastard, you are happy too early. After saying that, he turned into a rainbow light and landed on the ring in an instant. His aura was also released, and it was extremely powerful. It was no less powerful than Zhang Tujian. God, the Mahayana period. Another Mahayana period. It seems that, they are all in the 8th level of Mahayana. How is this possible? Instantly, the whole audience exclaimed. Everyone was shocked. How can this be? Does the Divine Sword sect have so many geniuses? Zhang Tujian is already disappointing. I didn't expect that a traitor from their sect would actually have such strength. Fortunately, this person has betrayed the section, otherwise, the future of the Divine Sword sect will be really disappointing. How could such a strong genius be abandoned by the Divine Sword sect? It's really interesting. Everyone spoke one after another. Cao Yujian was also stunned for a moment. This abandoned disciple actually reached the 8th level of Mahayana? He instantly looked suspiciously at the elder of the Divine Sword sect who had just recognized Lu Rang. It was this elder who sent Lu Rang to die. Sect Master, this is impossible. Before that, he was just a waste in the foundation building stage of the outer section. The elder panicked instantly. Lu Rang was obviously such a waste, but in order to save the sect's resources, he was sent out to die. How did he suddenly transform into an immortal genius in the Mahayana period? This is simply impossible. Haha, what are you afraid of? A waste is a waste after all. He cannot be junior brother Zhang's opponent. Xia Tong spoke coldly. Cao Yujian also nodded. Although he was a little surprised, it didn't change anything. Behind him, a middle-aged man wearing linen clothes under his outer robe was looking calmly at the ring. An outsider from my sect with a dog-like background dares to challenge me. Do you really think that an ant like you can be compared with a giant dragon? Zhang Tujian was extremely angry. He held the long sword and activated the endless sword energy. The sword energy was like a rainbow, and the sword slashed out with a bang. For a moment, the air roared, the wind roared, and the sword energy cut through everything. He exploded with all his strength and wanted to kill Lu Rang with one blow. However, Lu Rang suddenly closed his eyes. There was only one image in his mind. That's the scene when the teacher is plowing the fields. Raise the hoe, the avenue roars. Put down the hoe and lift the weight as if it were light. His hands evolve. In his hand, a hoe made of spiritual energy suddenly appeared. Then, the hoe suddenly swung out like digging the ground. The moment the hoe was swung, all the sword energy that suddenly came overwhelming evaporated. Zhang Tujian's pupils shrank violently, and he looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Before he could react, the hoe suddenly fell down with an invincible digging power. No! Zhang Tujian shouted, and the next moment he flew out upside down. Bang! He hit the audience hard, just like the Qing Chen monk who let his talents go. Solo sword! An elder of the Divine Sword sect shouted, and instantly turned into a stream of light and landed next to Zhang Tujian. He picked up Zhang Tujian, but his face was extremely ugly and he said, his tendons and veins are all broken, he is useless. Wasted. As soon as this statement came out, the whole audience was in an uproar. Oh my God, what's going on? Zhang Tujian is so strong, but he can't take Lu Rang's blow? It's terrible. They are both in the 8th level of the Mahayana stage, but their strength is completely different. This is too weird, isn't it? This Lu Rang actually condensed a spiritual hoe. Other strong men condensed swords and the like. Why did I actually have the illusion of seeing the most powerful person when he was swinging his hoe just now? For a moment, everyone was talking and looking at Lu Rang in disbelief. How can this be? Mahayana 8th heaven versus 8th heaven, they lost so quickly, it was like an instant kill. Crush. Even Lu Rang himself was confused at the moment. Damn, am I actually so powerful? Zhang Tujian is also at the 8th level of Mahayana, and he can destroy it with just one blow. At this moment, he was shocked, really shocked. Master is really terrifying. I'm just trying to imitate his movements. I can't even do 1/10,000,000th of what he does, but I'm already invincible at the same level. When he felt the terror of his master, he instantly felt confident in his heart. He is no longer the loser he was before. On the main stage, when Cao Yujian saw this, he stood up and stared at Lu Rang with a look of shock in his eyes. This. He was shocked. Zhang Tujian is obviously so powerful, how could he be killed instantly? Cao Yujian subconsciously looked at the middle-aged man standing behind him. The middle-aged man just said coldly, calm down. The middle-aged man also looked at Lu Rang on the field with a thoughtful look in his eyes. How come this child has just evolved, with the feeling of a prototype of a great avenue, could it be? He was a little unsure and looked at Lu Oming on the other side. But Lu Oming's face also had a look of contemplation and solemnity. There is definitely a real master behind this man, and he should be the one we are looking for, keep testing. Lu Oming immediately issued an order. Cao Yujian received the order, but his face was a little ugly. This Lu Rang was too strong, which made him a little uneasy. However, he did not dare to disobey, so he could only say in a deep voice, Xia Tong, go. However, Xia Tong's pretty face turned pale instantly and said, Master, I'm afraid I'm not his opponent. Her cultivation level is similar to that of Zhang Tujian, who couldn't even take one of the opponent's blows. She is already scared. You. Cao Yujian was very angry. At this moment, on the ring, Lu Rang glanced at the entire audience, full of unparalleled confidence, and said, "How many disciples are there in the Divine Sword sect? Let's come together." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 70. Come on together. Lu Rang spoke calmly, but to everyone, he sounded so arrogant. He simply looked down upon the entire Divine Sword sect. Everyone looked complicated. On the main stage, Cao Yujian was extremely angry. Cao Shuang, go kill him. He couldn't help it anymore and spoke angrily. Cao Shuang has reached the realm of the Venerable. He originally wanted to show off Cao Shuang at the end, but now it seems that he can't wait any longer. Cao Shuang nodded and was about to leave. Wait a minute. At this moment, the middle-aged man suddenly spoke, 2 more swords appeared in his sleeves, and he handed them to Cao Shuang and Xia Tong. You two come together. Give the treasure and let the 2 of them go together. Seeing this, Cao Yujian was instantly overjoyed. Is this a quasi-immortal weapon? This is so great. This kid will definitely die. Cao Shuang and Xia Tong both took the sword and were very excited. The master actually gave me a quasi-immortal weapon. You must know that there are only a few quasi-immortal weapons in the entire Xiantian realm, which can be regarded as foundations in all major holy places, but now they are lucky enough to be able to fight with them. Thank you, master. The 2 of them thanked each other, and then turned into 2 rainbow lights and appeared directly on the ring. You good for nothing, you're looking for death. Xia Tong drank softly and released her breath. The 8th level of Mahayana. In an instant, the whole place was shaken again. The Divine Sword sect actually has a young powerful man in the Mahayana stage of the 8th heaven. It's terrible. However, before everyone could react, Cao Shuang's terrifying aura surged out, causing the arena paved with iron spirit stones to shake slightly in an instant. God, Your Majesty. How is this possible? Cao Shuang is only in his 20s, and he has achieved enlightenment before he was 30. The first person in history. God is too kind to the Divine Sword sect, isn't it? Is the Divine Sword sect going to become the supreme sect? Invincible. There was a sensation in the whole place, and everyone was in an uproar. The younger generation is eclipsed at this moment, and they understand that this is a height they will never catch up to. The older generation were all dumbfounded and shocked. You must know that many old monsters who have lived for hundreds of years have not yet broken through to the realm of venerables. At this moment, Cao Shuang became the star of the audience. He had a cold temperament, like the master of the world. He sneered and said, "Is that so, Lu Rang? I heard that before, you were just a loser in charge of growing spiritual plants in our sect's outer section. I'll give you a chance, and now you can ask me for help. Kneel down and become my follower, and I will spare your life." High and above. Lu Rang was also surprised when he felt Cao Shuang's cultivation, but it was only for a moment. He reacted immediately, with a look of disdain on his face. His Holiness. My 2 senior sisters, one is supreme and the other is quasi-immortal. And I, with such an invincible master in heaven and on earth, would it be difficult to break through the master? Idiot, how dare you be so presumptuous? Do you want to die? He didn't bother to speak. Hearing this, Cao Shuang's face twitched instantly. Killing intent is like water. In that case, I will grant you death. He whispered, "Junior sister, follow the master's instructions and let's take action together." Just now, the master ordered them to use the quasi-immortal sword together to kill Lu Rang with one blow. Good. Xia Tong nodded and pulled out the long sword in his hand. The moment the long sword was unsheathed, a faint aura of immortality suddenly came out. Quasi-immortal sword. Suddenly someone shouted. The Divine Sword sect actually uses a quasi-immortal sword? How is this possible? It's so bullying. It's not fair. With the quasi-immortal sword in hand, even in the Mahayana stage, I can fight against the Supreme. This is too bullying. Many people were speechless. But the next moment, everyone was even more shocked and speechless, because Cao Shuang also drew his sword, and it was another quasi-immortal sword. Two quasi-immortal swords. Everyone at the scene was extremely shocked. With numbers crushed, realms crushed, and still wielding a quasi-immortal sword, the Divine Sword sect is determined to kill Lu Rang. It is understandable that if Lu Rang is allowed to grow up, it will definitely be a nightmare for the Divine Sword section. Lu Rang is considered a genius, but I didn't expect that he would die like this. Everyone spoke one after another. On the main stage, Holy Master Yuan Yang and Holy Master Ling Chao also stood up immediately, anger flashing in their eyes. Send our sect's quasi-immortal weapon to Mr. Lu Rang immediately. Ling Chao spoke. But beside him, Long Zixuan already shook his head and said, the two holy masters don't have to worry. After hearing what he said, both of them frowned, but then relaxed. Yes, Lu Rang is Senior Li's disciple. Will there be a shortage of quasi-immortal weapons? They immediately sat down. Everyone's attention is on the stage. Haha, today, you will definitely die, you are finished. Cao Shuang smiled evilly. He raised the long sword in his hand and unleashed the unparalleled power of the quasi-immortal sword, slashing down towards Lu Kang. Xia Tong also took action, and the light of the quasi-immortal sword turned into a rainbow and shot towards Lu Rang quickly, destroying everything. The quasi-immortal sword came out and the situation changed. The power was overwhelming and the arena shook. Lu Rang looked at the scene and just sneered. With everyone watching, Lu Rang suddenly saw an extra chopstick in his hand. A wooden chopstick that looks extremely ordinary. Facing the destructive power erupted from the two quasi-immortal swords, he just gently held the chopsticks and then swiped forward. With this stroke, suddenly, the entire space in the arena was cut open. Space debris is falling one after another. The murderous aura of sword light erupted from the quasi-immortal sword disappeared in an instant. Cao Shuang and Xia Tong were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They saw an unparalleled scratch coming towards them. No. Cao Shuang burst out with a loud shout and blocked it with the quasi-immortal sword. But, the next moment, the quasi-immortal sword seemed to have turned into tofu and was cut into two parts by the scratches. Cao Shuang even saw that the cuts were extremely neat. The next moment, he suddenly felt a warmth on his neck. He subconsciously wanted to lower his head, but the moment he lowered his head fell directly. Next to him, Xia Tong stared blankly at the severed quasi-immortal sword in his hand. Hearing the movement around him, he turned around to look. Her body split apart as she turned. Both died. At this moment, the whole place suddenly fell silent. It's quiet, the whole world is quiet. Everyone looked at the ring, dumbfounded. That's a chopstick? A chopstick, actually cut off two quasi-immortal weapons with just one stroke. At least it's an immortal weapon. Where did Lu Rang get the immortal weapon? Is there an immortal behind him? I can't imagine, the three great geniuses of the Divine Sword sect are all useless. After reacting, the whole place was in an uproar. Everyone was stunned. Cao Yujian of the Divine Sword sect was dumbfounded. He sat down on his seat as if he were mourning for his heir. Behind him, the middle-aged man's eyes instantly gleamed. Just one, it is already a treasure beyond the true immortal level. He looked at Luo Ming on the side. Luo Ming was also very shocked at this moment. In this small Taiyan holy land, immortal weapons that surpass the level of true immortals appear one after another. We must get this magical weapon. As long as we get it, the identity of the person behind it will be revealed. Luo Ming said in a deep voice and immediately looked at Wu Ming and Wu Ming at Luofu Holy Land. You two go. Wu Ming and Wu Ming were in shock. When they heard this, their hearts skipped a beat. Just now, Cao Yujian, who was at the venerable level, was killed even though he was holding a quasi-immortal sword. Swallowing this medicine will bring you two to a higher level. In addition, I will give you a true immortal level weapon. Luo Ming spoke directly and gave the two people pills and treasures. This is a big investment. You must know that even if he is a true immortal, he can only refine 2 or 3 true immortal level magic weapons. Now, I have to take out 2 pieces. The elixir is a taboo elixir. After taking it, Wu Ming and Wu Ming will indeed increase their cultivation level, but it can only last for an hour. After 1 hour, the two of them will die and be saved by the gods. No. Wu Ming and Wu Ming were instantly overjoyed and hurriedly thanked them. Thank you, Master. Luo Ming said, besides, you two don't have to worry. The magic weapon in Lu Rang's hand has sucked all his spiritual energy. Now he is a useless person. This was also the reason why he dared to let the two of them take action. If he hadn't seen that Lu Rang's spiritual power was exhausted, let alone Wu Ming, even he wouldn't have dared to take action directly. Those chopsticks were too terrifying. Wu Ming and Wu Ming nodded, and then flew directly to the ring. Wu Ming and Sen Ao from Luofu Holy Land are here to fight you. They spoke. After saying that, the two of them took the medicine directly on the spot. Boom. Their auras suddenly rose from the Mahayana stage to the Venerable stage. 2 great sages. It's terrifying. The crowd was shocked. What kind of elixir is that? It can actually allow them to break through from the Mahayana stage to the realm of the Venerable. It's incredible. What kind of existence is behind the Divine Sword sect and the Luofu Holy Land? I suddenly discovered that it is impossible for the Divine Sword sect and the Luofu Holy Land to have such a foundation alone, they are just puppets. At this moment, everyone was talking about it. While shocked, many sober-minded people also realized that there was an unknown existence behind the Divine Sword sect and the Luofu Holy Land. This is completely contrary to common sense. A total of 5 talented disciples who have transcended the Mahayana stage appeared in Shenjian sect and Luofu Holy Land at the same time. Moreover, quasi-immortal weapons, elixirs, etc. are given casually. It's impossible even to think about. Perhaps, we were taken advantage of. Holy Lord Sahang murmured at this moment and looked at Tugu Shenlu beside him. Tugu Shenlu looked very fearful in his eyes and said, I sensed a familiar aura. That was the aura when he drew his sword and slashed at the unknown existence when the 4 major domains were in turmoil and the Holy Land was destroyed in succession. However, he dare not say it clearly at this moment. Because this means, the true immortal level existence that destroyed countless holy places in the 4 realms is very likely to be present. Can the so-called power in the southern region that can shock everything really be able to shock everything? He murmured in his heart, his palms were already sweating a lot at this moment. In the arena, Wu Ming and Sen Ao stared at Lu Rang. Looking at the chopsticks in Lu Rang's hand, they looked extremely greedy. Put down your chopsticks, kneel down and surrender. Wu Ming threatens. Vote to your second uncle. Lu Rang opened his mouth, but his energy was a little weak. The chopsticks were too terrifying. The blow just now almost exhausted his spiritual power. There is no way to fight anymore. Then you go to hell. Sen Ao is approaching with a treasure in hand. Wait. At this time, a clear voice sounded from the main stage, and Long Xuanhuan walked out and said, I will take over this battle for my junior brother. After saying that, he turned into a rainbow and appeared on the ring. The aura belonging to the realm of the Venerable was released suddenly, not weaker than the two of them. Faintly, there is also golden dragon energy accompanying it. The whole place was excited again. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 71. Just when everyone thought that Lu Rang had exhausted his strength and was unable to match the two powerful masters, Long Xuanhuan suddenly appeared. Moreover, as soon as he appeared, he showed his master-level strength. Long Xuanhuan, isn't this person the deposed prince of the Shenlong dynasty? How did he and Lu Rang become brothers? And how did he become so powerful? What is the romantic connection between these two people? Who did they become their disciples? Everyone was talking about it. On the main stage, the emperor of the Shenlong dynasty, Long Xiaotian, Long Xuanhuan's biological father, looked shocked at this moment, and his eyes were filled with incredible looks. How can this be? Isn't my son already dead? He subconsciously looked at the queen next to him. When the queen saw this, her face was completely panicked, and she said, "Your Majesty, I don't know, before he left, he was still a waste in the Golden Core realm. You know, keeping him will only become an insult to our royal family." Long Xiaoshan's face darkened, but he didn't say a word, just looked at the stage silently. In his heart, there was already a flood of regret. The appearance of Long Xuanhuan surprised both Wu Ming and Sen Ao. However, the two of them are very confident. "Haha, Your Majesty. What a pity, you are only one person. Today, you are destined to die." They spoke coldly. Noisy. Long Xuanhuan just spoke coldly, "Lu Rang, you go down first." Lu Rang nodded and said immediately, "Okay. I leave it to you, kill them." After saying that, he left the ring. Try his depth first. At this moment, Lu Ming, who was on the main stage, suddenly sent a message to Lu Ming and the other two people on the stage. The dragon aura on Long Xuanhuan's body aroused his curiosity. "Go to hell." Sen Ao took action instantly. Wu Ming also stepped forward. The two of them burst out with powerful magic. Wu Ming transformed into a giant seal, while Sen Ao turned his spiritual power into a violent wave and charged away. This is a treasure technique they learned from Lu Ming. It does not belong to this world and is very terrifying. The arena paved with iron spirit stones began to crack at this moment, and the entire space was shaking. "I'm afraid only the Supreme can take it," someone exclaimed. However, on the stage, Long Xuanhuan only responded with indifference. In his mind, he thought of the tracks of goldfish swimming in the pond in the small courtyard, and the shadows of dragons competing for food. He raised his hand. Formations of dragon chants. The golden dragon soul erupted and occupied the mid-air. It was extremely powerful and as gorgeous as an ancient true dragon. Hand down. The wild dragon danced with overwhelming power, and with a roar, Wu Ming's giant seal collapsed, and Sen Ao's wild waves dispersed. The two people spurted blood on the spot, stepped back more than 10 steps, and their faces turned pale. Before Long Xuanhuan made a move, the two of them were defeated just by the power of the dragon soul. Everyone was dumbfounded. God, what kind of magic is this? Impossible, impossible. Long Xuanhuan and Lu Rang, who are the unparalleled geniuses taught by them. Everyone is shocked. At this moment, even Lu Ming and another true immortal couldn't sit still. The two of them looked at each other, and saw panic in each other's eyes. True dragon treasure, is this the legendary true dragon treasure? The real immortal spoke, his voice trembling. I understand, I completely understand that in Xiantian realm, there must be an ancient dragon. In fact, the dragon and the ancient true dragon should have a very close blood relationship. At this moment, Lu Ming showed a thoroughly enlightened, yet frightened and solemn expression. He concluded that this was an ancient dragon that was related to the true dragon clan, but it could not be a true dragon. Because, the true dragon clan was once proud of the nine heavens immortal realm and could kill the immortal king. Later, due to the legendary taboo catastrophe, they were completely destroyed. The great figures in the fairy land searched the heavens and could not find any trace of the dragon clan. The immortal realm has reached a consensus that the catastrophe against the dragon clan was so terrifying that all the pure-blooded true dragons were wiped out. Even if there are still dragons that are still alive, they must be mixed-blood dragons. The legend about the dragon clan has never been extinguished. Now, in this small Xuanhuan realm, is it possible that there is one dormant? If this spreads out, it will shock the heavens and the earth. Get him, get him. Luo Ming yelled directly at Wu Ming and Sen Ao on the stage, his eyes turned red. If you catch Long Xuanhuan, you may be able to get the traces of the giant dragon, and you may be able to obtain the treasures of the true dragon clan, which can be called the supreme fairy fate. In the arena, Wu Ming and Sen Ao were also roaring at this moment. The treasures in their hands suddenly burst out with terrifying peerless power. In Wu Ming's hand is an iron seal engraved with mysterious immortal patterns. At this moment, as soon as the iron seal came out, the arena that could accommodate the Venerable's battle suddenly exploded, with sand and gravel flying everywhere. Sen Ao has a golden weapon in his hand. The magic mace carried the terrifying Zhengjin Qi, and with just one wave, countless space fragments were scattered, and the white clouds floating over the Taiyan Holy Land suddenly collapsed. Almost all the cultivators in the audience knelt down at this moment. The power of this true immortal magic weapon made it impossible for them to look directly at it. The whole audience was silent. But, in the arena, Long Xuanhuan was indifferent, and suddenly took out a black fire stick. Faced with the endless terrifying power that came at him, he raised his stick and smashed it away over his head and face. Boom 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 boom. There was a big explosion in space, and the ear-piercing explosion sounded like the impact of a big wave. When the stick fell, Wu Ming and the true immortal black iron seal in his hand suddenly evaporated together. Sen Ao only had time to let out a shrill cry of fear. The black gold mace in his hand melted directly into golden water, and he himself died in the distortion. The power continued unabated, and the entire holy mountain of Taiyan Holy Land suddenly burst open. The terrifying shock wave shook the mountains and seemed to destroy the world. On the main stage, Cao Yujian, Holy Master Luofu and others were lying on the ground, trembling and unable to lift their heads. No. Is this the legendary stick? The stick that once defeated the invincible in the immortal realm. The knees of the real immortal who was with Luo Ming were trembling, and he almost knelt down. Yes. It must be, it must be. As long as you get it, you can dominate. This is mine, mine. Luo Ming's eyes burst out with fiery greed, and he suddenly flew towards the fire stick. Another true immortal also took action, and wanted to work with him to seize the stick with a great background. This stick was once famous in the world, but now they don't care about anything but just get it. However, as soon as they got closer, they were involved in the aftermath of this stick. Even if it was just the slightest ripple, it still caused horrific killings to the two of them. They screamed miserably, and all the cultivation of the true immortals burst out, trying to compete. The entire Taiyan Holy Land is trembling because of the peerless power of these two people. However, the fire stick in Long Xuanhuan's hand only trembled slightly. A wisp of qi came out. Luo Ming and another true immortal suddenly exploded into blood mist. The soul is destroyed. Between heaven and earth, there was blood rain. Taiyan Holy Land. It's like experiencing a horrific disaster. The palace was reduced to rubble, and the martial arts arena was reduced to ashes. A corner of the holy mountain has cracked. Looking at the entire audience, except for Huo Linger and Mu Jianing, everyone was kneeling on the ground at this moment. The entire Taiyan Holy Land fell silent.